Hello, my loves, and welcome to Create Your Life. My name is Simone Leah, and I am your host. And I am so excited to be with you guys today because today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you to Audrey Rose, who's the embodied creator, to talk all things why you need to be starting a soul led business in 2026. So, hello, Audrey. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, thank you. I'm very excited to be here and really excited to share why building a solid business in 2026 is such a sweet spot for me.
Yes, I love this. Just before this call, guys, we were actually having a conversation about how this topic lights both of us up. So I think this is going to be a great episode for you all because you're going to have this like fiery, passionate energy from both Audrey and myself because we're so like we just love this. So if it gets out of hand, just be prepared. So Audrey, um, let's start with the age-old show question of what does creating a life you love look like to you?
Oh, I think that for me, creating a life that I love is something that you feel. For me, it's something I feel. I have learned in my many earthly years that creating a life that you love looks and feels completely different. Sometimes on paper, in the very beginning of whatever you're creating, the life that you want to create is this magnificent thing. And then sometimes when you get that magnificent thing, you're like, maybe I still feel empty, or maybe I'm realizing that that's not actually what I thought I would feel when I got that. So for me, creating a life that I love is more so of how I'm feeling in my body, frequency, energetically, like how is my relationships, how is my clients, how is my family? Like to me, it's a ripple effect of the frequency and energy that I choose to lead, live, and love, I guess. Lead, yeah.
I love this. Thank you. And I love that you mentioned sometimes it's when you get the thing you want and you're like, wait, actually I didn't want that. And it's having that understanding of being able to adjust to create what actually you do want. So I love that. So thank you. And so diving
Yeah.
into the topic of why people need to create like a soul-led business these days, it really does tie in a lot with obviously what we're talking about creating a life you love. But why do you think people need to be creating a soul-led business?
Oh, so I believe that creating a soul-led business, especially for us, we are soul-led entrepreneurs. We are creating our business as what I like to call an extension, an essence of our soul purpose. So for me, I realized kind of early on in my business startings that creating something isn't always necessarily going to be the thing that probably on paper sells. I was told very early on that um, don't sell spiritual stuff because it's harder to sell, which led me into the path of creating an agency and then closing the agency, but doing more of like the streamlined automations tech system type setup, which I do not regret at all. However, I realized probably last year that for me, continuing on the path of building funnels and websites and like the more of the business strategy part, which is what I'd like to call the 3D, um, wasn't aligned for me anymore. I ended up getting a little, I don't want to say a little sick, but I had some health issues that were rolling around. I had some mental health issues that were rolling around, and I came to the realization that for me, in order to continue with what I was doing, I had to really lean into and surrender, which was so hard at times, into that what is my soul purpose. And for the longest time, I was not sure entirely what my sole purpose was. I have been multi-dimensionally faceted my whole life, from being a bartender to being an esthetician to owning a spa to going to college, back to school for web design, graphic design, and then becoming a VA and then funnel building and all of this sort of stuff. And so for me, for me, I realized that like I'm not just the business person or the funnel builder, right? I am also this spiritual person who loves to help my clients create their offers and the things that they're doing from connecting to the soul of their business. And so a lot of times my clients were like, I don't even know how to connect to the soul of my business. I'm like, I got you, let's do it. And it's guiding people into this space where you can tap into your own soul connection, your own soul self, that then creates, you know what your soul purpose is and your soul mission. And so then you're able to connect to it so deeply that you are able to hear the whispers, the voice of what your soul is saying it wants to create because it's something, a passion that lights you up. And from that, that is how you create your soul aligned business. It's from creating what structure, systems, whatever it looks like in your business from a place of an exact replica, or not exact replica, from an extension of your soul mission. So that way is anything and everything that you're creating is in your soul alignment because you're essentially creating from your soul mission. And so that to me, I found took me a long time to get there, but now that I'm there, I'm like screaming from the rooftops. And a lot of that really came from me having a very, very, very deep, deep practice of meditation. And I do something a little bit different as my meditation is not silent. My meditation is verbal. And so I have this thing called the embodied um, temple practice because what it does is I go into my temple, my space, and I'm verbal the whole time. I'm talking, I'm seeing it. The temple becomes essentially me in my as I'm my soul. It's really, really cool. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's that's how that's how I create in my business.
I love this. You can't lead with it's really cool and then finish the conversation. Oh my God, that sounds so awesome. I love that. Gosh, there's so many layers I want to go in here. Like, for the people who are thinking the same thing that you were thinking of, if I'm in business, I need to do the sensible thing, but that's not how you build a soul aligned business. But then I also want to dive right into channeling your mission and channeling your soul purpose and going into the temple as you do. So I love all of this, and I honestly don't even know where to start. But for someone who is thinking to themselves, like, I don't know which direction I want to go. I feel like I should be doing the 3D path. The 5D path is scary. I don't know. Like, I've heard whispers of my mission, and I don't really know whether I should trust that. What sort of guidance would you give them?
Oh, I would say for me, through my own experience, the guidance that was the biggest pivotal point for me in being able to connect to my intuition, hear and trust my intuition. That was probably the hardest part was for me to be like, okay, I'm hearing this. I also have a spiritual mentor. So for me, that was big to be able to have someone where I could like bounce ideas off or say, this is what's coming through. And she would be like, yeah, I see it for you too. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm not crazy. Or I should, or maybe I am crazy and that's okay too. But um, for me, it was coming down to understanding what's coming through and knowing whether it's real or not, right? Being able to trust. And then the most important part for me was connecting to my body. The most important part for me was feeling safe, coming home and feeling safe and connected to my body. For many, 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 many years, I have disconnected from my body as this thing that was annoying to me. It was this thing like, oh, now I have to sneeze. Now I have to go to the bathroom and like all these things. And so for me, my body felt very much like a burden. And once I was able to flip and change the perspective, the relationship with my body is actually a vehicle, a vessel, this beautiful temple space that is here carrying my soul. Or, I believe that the soul is actually us as the human having experience when we are inside of our soul is how I believe it. I don't think that the soul is necessarily inside of us. I think there's this giant circle like the Wizard of Oz, that beautiful bubble. I think that's our soul, and then we're kind of projected in as the human experience there. But for me, it was coming to terms with the human experience and really being okay with not being okay at times. Because I've struggled my whole life with depression and just feeling like I want to go back home. this place that I'm currently in feels very heavy and very like, really, I'm supposed to be here? And so for me, it was learning to connect and be okay with the human experience and being in this body.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And like that kind of made me kind of think about like, what if someone was like there and they're like, I feel like I can't trust myself because I've got XYZ. So, say someone's like, I hate to use the word, but had a lot of trauma, and they're like, I just don't trust myself because any guidance that's coming through is coming from a place of trauma or it's coming from a place of whatever. Like, I tend to believe that that everybody is a human, is like a little soul with filters on top of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
say someone's aware that they've got filters. They're like, I know I've got my shit. Like, so how can I trust anything that I get through as guidance and not trauma?
You know, I have to be honest, that's really hard. It really, really is hard. For me personally, I struggled with, I wouldn't say I struggled with what necessarily what was the trauma piece more than it was realizing what my limited beliefs were and understanding what programming, subconscious programming, was essentially running through my system. And for me, through the whole my spiritual awakening that I had, I in turn, ironically enough, ended up developing my own healing modality. So I was able to then and I was a Reiki master for, I don't even know, since 2012 or something like that. But what ended up happening for me in my experience is I was able to activate my own spiritual gifts so that I was able to actually create or remember, is what I like to say, a healing modality from a very, very long time ago. And I was able to see, not only in my field, but in other people's fields, the exact memory that happened to you as a childhood or previously that was creating that limiting belief and then remove it. So for me, I was lucky, I guess, enough to say that I could see and feel and hear and know what my traumas were. For people who don't have the luxury, I guess, of having visible traumas, or, you know, at least being able to visibly see how it is navigating your belief system, I think that probably I would, oh my gosh. I mean, it's really important to know what's being projected or triggered and that sort of stuff. So I think I would probably just seek support around that, as to be able to see, because sometimes you need a mirror.
Yeah.
You need someone who can be like, hey hon, I see this coming up for you and I feel like it's connected to this. Do you want to dive in and talk about it? And like, that's what I did with my spiritual mentor, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm ready now. And we would, you know, do a meditation and dive in, and I'd be able to see the thing. And you don't, and I also want to say that you don't have to have spiritual abilities and gifts to be able to heal the trauma. You don't need to see it. I've always been very visual my entire life. But it is very nice to have someone who you can lean on and hold space for you. I think that's probably one of the most important parts of this whole spiritual journey too, whether it's business or even just spiritual evolution, is to have, I've got ghosties, is to have that spiritual support, the community. Like, it is so more important now than I feel like it ever is.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100% agree. Having that, just even knowing, like I remember back when I first started, back years ago, acknowledging the fact that I was psychic, it was when all of that stuff was so taboo. And now I'm just like, man, all the people who are like learning this stuff now and awakening to this stuff now, they're so lucky because you can talk about it with pretty much anybody. Like everybody kind of has an understanding of it now, and it's not weird. So I definitely think that that obviously helps as well. And I think, like, as we said, like building that self trust with yourself and having that support, that's what's going to help move you forward, I think. So I love all of that. Thank you. And then,
Yeah.
like, if someone is wanting to start like a soul led business, how can they like develop their own temple and download their or channel through their own business like opportunity or offers?
Yeah, so I love this question. For me, what I did was I just meditated every day. And I know that that's very hard for some people. Like, I know that it can be very hard for some people. I know that even the thought of meditating every single day, you're like, oh my God. But for me, my life where it was was unbearable in some ways, and I knew something had to change. My whole philosophy is if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I swung the pendulum and I swung hard. And so for me, it was like I was Olympic style um, meditating every single day. And I looked forward to it because I knew for me something what needed to change drastically. And for me, I had previously a lot of mindset um, I call them fear codes. So frequency encoding affecting reality is what I actually call them, fear codes. Fear codes is the thing, the limiting belief in your system, in your DNA, your code, anything that is prohibiting you from living the biggest, fullest life you have because you essentially are carrying a programming that's essentially making you run slow, like your computer, right? It's like almost like a virus. And so for me personally, I knew that I wanted extreme change fast. I'm one of those people I'm all in or I'm not. It's like all or nothing for me. So for me it was okay. Not everybody will probably start that way, but the most important part for me was to get quiet and listen and connect to my body. The most important part was to just be in silence. And then for me, how I do my stuff is I kind of say the things that I'm thinking out loud because for me sitting in the silence for too long I just can't, my mind will wander, I'll start thinking about anything and everything. So for me it was like I had to give it a space and give it a name, and then I just went into this beautiful place. I was like, what is this temple going to look like? And I just witnessed it. I let it create in front of me. I wasn't trying to create my dream home, I wasn't trying to create my dream anything. I literally was just like, show me what it looks like, show me what my temple feels like, show me what this room looks like. And I just kind of wandered. And for a very long time, probably 2 weeks, so that's not really that long, but it felt like forever. I just kind of witnessed a lot of stuff until I started actively participating in, well, what's in this room over here? Let's go in there and see what's in here. And let's do this. And so the temple that I had basically created, I kind of watched it be built. And the really cool thing about like the inner temple piece for me at least is how I know it's real is I can't change anything. So if I see something there and I'm like, oh, I want to change that to make it pink or purple, I'm like, nope, it won't change. Like it's there, it's what it is. So for me, that's kind of how I knew to trust. I was able to trust what I was seeing and feeling is because I couldn't technically change it. If I'm using my imagination and I'm just like playing in a fairyland, I can change anything and all of it, right? But when I'm connected to my inner temple and just got really quiet and connected to, for me it's essentially you're connecting to your soul. You're channeling and becoming your soul self. That's when it was like, I was just able to create that as a practice and be able to do it on a daily basis. And then it just became like, boom, all right, I'm in the temple now. And then you just connect to it. It's like repetition, right? It's like going to the gym and lifting those muscles and working out and stuff. It's something that you get to do on a regular basis to get better at it. And the more you do it, the more you trust. And the more that you trust, the more that you're like, woohoo, now I know if I want to create an offer for my business, all I have to do is connect. For me, I just close my eyes, connect, and I'm show me what wants to be birthed through me. Show me what's waiting for me next, or show me what's coming for my ideal clients, or any of that sort of stuff. I connect in that way, and then I just start to get little visions and images and little breadcrumbs. I don't always get it all at once because that would be probably overwhelming. And I know me, I'd be like built in a day, the whole thing built in a day. When sometimes I need a few days or even weeks for a lot of what is to be there to kind of settle in my field before I really need to act on it. So. Yeah.
I love this. This is so cool. I'm so like all over this. This is the best. This sounds so fun. Want to ask a couple of technical questions. So you're like, did this in an Olympic level. What are we talking here? Like meditation for like 3 hours a day? And then when you're in your temple or whatever, how does the talking work? Are you just saying what you're visualizing or yeah, how are you doing it? Because this sounds super cool.
Yeah. So when I'm in my temple, when I get to that space, so one thing I also do too is I record everything on my phone
Ah.
because what I like to do is a lot of times I'm channeling. And so I don't remember all of the things that come through. And so I like to have the recording so I can copy the transcript. I can put it in ChatGPT. I can put it in Google Docs. A lot of times, what I end up doing is putting it in Google Docs so I could be like, oh, this is the offer that came through. But yeah, I'll take the transcript and I'll develop whatever needs to come through, whether it's an offer, whether it's, sometimes stuff comes through that is like not necessarily an offer. It's crazy, but the Olympic level. So for me, it was so I close my eyes, put my hand on my heart, and I always start with gratitude. Always. That to me is the key to opening my own temple. I start with gratitude, and I've got goosebumps again, goosies. So I love teaching this. So I start with gratitude, and then I close my eyes and I imagine the temple in front of me. And for me, because I'm so visual, I'm like, what does it feel like as my feet are hitting the floor, the ground? I always have moss, sea moss, not sea moss. I eat sea moss. Moss on the ground, like the green feels so good on your feet, cold and squishy, right? And then I look around and I'm like, I can feel the sun on my skin. I can feel the wind in my hair. And so what I do is I kind of just do a visual of everything that I see and then gratitude. And then the next thing I know, I'm either inside my temple or I open the doors. My temple doors are like amethyst purple. They're beautiful. So I open the doors and I go in, and then I have this beautiful mandala that's like at the very entrance of my temple. And I'll just sit there on the floor. And I just am so grateful. And then that's when kind of the ideas flow. And during this whole time, I might be talking about, like, as it's happening, I'm kind of narrating. I think that's the best way to say it. I'm kind of narrating everything that's happening. And sometimes for the good 5, 10, 15 minutes, depends on what's really going on in my life during that time, I will just brain dump. And sometimes it just sounds like I'm just chatting with a girlfriend, but I'm just getting it out of the way. It's in my field, it's in my frequency, it's in the energy of in my thoughts, and so I just need to get it out of the way. And so then I'm like, all right, I feel complete with that. Now I'm going into the temple, and then when I'm sitting in the temple, just random stuff comes. Sometimes I go in with a purpose. Today I would like to meet X, Y, and Z. I'd like to have support from my team, my spirit guides. I can. There's a room where I go and I talk to the the Council of Light and the Lyran High Council. There's a space where I can go and talk to future 5D, 8D version of Audrey that literally is in another realm. There's also different Audreys from different dimensions that and different like space stars that I can call in and talk to her. It's really wild. It's very interesting. But I think the the most important part is to just let it unfold in front of you. Don't judge what comes through. Know that whatever it is that's coming through, you're divinely protected. Like that to me was very important too. And take it day by day. My sometimes my meditations are about when I first started, they were probably 10 or 15 minutes. Now they're a good 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half sometimes. Depends on what's coming through, what I'm channeling. And then I also do an evening one where I just kind of let the day unfold. I love to do reflection. To me, reflection is all about ways that I can do better tomorrow, ways that I can be better tomorrow. What is something that I said maybe or did that I wish that maybe I could redo and maybe do it better tomorrow? Kind of that sort of thing too. So it's not limited to just, what can I get for soul business stuff? It's also for me to have more spiritual awareness and more spiritual connection as well.
Yeah. No, I literally love all of that. Thank you so much. And yeah, I sometimes have the same thing where I'll just go hang out with my spirit guides because I'm like, I just want to hang out. Like, I'm like, "Oh." So I literally love that. And I love as well that you kind of said that obviously there's a morning routine and an evening some as well, because I think as well from a business perspective, for anyone who's thinking of this from a business perspective, to be able to review the day is really good, but also to be able to set the day is really good, like connecting in and just being like, all right, this is where we're at today. Hi, soul fam, like, which door do I need to go in or what do I need to activate? I think that's really, really cool. And I love that you have that daily practice and also the daily review at the end of the day. Like, I think that's super cool because that's something you can do right before you go to bed, when you're winding down, just go connect with your soul fam. I do that literally every night before bed anyway. I go and do that myself. So yeah, I love that like you also do that and that the audience could start doing that as well. So, say for example, they've started meditating, they've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks. They're finally starting to get some good answers. They've been meditating long enough that they're starting to figure some stuff out. They're starting to feel a bit more embodied in their mission. How does channeling your offer connect with creating in the 5D? Like, if they're like, I can see this offer that I want to create, what is this like, time jumping thing that everyone talks about, and how do I create in 5D, and what's quantum, and how does all of that tie in as well with channeled offers and soul-led business?
Creating offers in what I like to refer to as the 5D. And I'm going to backtrack just a tad. And I've had people that are like, Audrey, what's the difference? Like, what is 3D versus 5D when it comes to creating in your business? And so one of the things that I love to say is, for me, 3D business is more of the bro marketing. It is more of the hustle culture. It is more of the masculine. And I do say that masculine has a place in your business. Absolutely. I believe it is the systems and the structure that holds the feminine flow of what you're creating in your business. So it's more so of anchoring in the 3D to then allow it to hold the 5D, which is counterintuitive since 5D and 3D. But I create my offers from soul alignment, right? And so when I am creating anything, everything comes from more of a soul connection. So what does that mean? That means that I'm not necessarily outsourcing my power or my questions to, say, a business coach or ChatGPT or something outside of me. I personally believe that the whole point of the 5D movement and the whole point of the new earth and all of that sort of stuff is that we are leaning more into our own interconnection, our own soul connection. So for me, the 5D really stems from the connection to your soul self, connection to your soul purpose, and creating everything from that. Now, there's a time and place for the 3D, the systems, the structure, the masculine things to support you. And I believe that having those systems in your business is a way to allow the feminine flow and the 5D to be more fluid. And in a sense that it acts as the pool, and you get to be the water in the pool. And it's very important to have both. There's so many women that I've met who are in their feminine flow, and it's beautiful, and I love watching it, and it's beautiful to see their creation and their flow, but they're very unorganized, they're very scattered, and they're very, all over the place because they're very fragmented, right? Because they haven't really embraced the systems part, which is kind of where I come in. And so that's the piece that I love supporting with, because I actually have my own platform, and I have my own platform that I love to allow my female clients to use to hold the systems and structure for their business and stuff. And so being able to kind of present that to them as an option. Like, I know right now I call it the Franken funnel. It's where everything's kind of scattered and you're using Zapier to try to connect everything, and everything's kind of falling apart. And maybe you don't necessarily believe that the welcome email is going to fire off because you're afraid that something's going to break, right? And so that's where having everything in one place can tend to make your business feel more supported. And this is also helping your nervous system not to feel super scattered and or fried, especially if you're in a launch or you're preparing or doing anything. Having the systems and having all of those things in place really affects the synergy, the energy, the frequency that you're holding, because you're not also worrying about whether or not your systems are going to crumble or fall.
Yeah. I love all of this. You're so interesting. I just love it.
Thank you.
So, if they're downloading their offer, they're doing that from the 5D, so that's cool. What is all this quantum jumping business about? Can I download my offer today and be a whole new person tomorrow? How does that work in terms of soul-led business and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I have to say, personally, I don't necessarily identify with the quantum leaping and the quantum jumping. Personally, I know that I've probably experienced it, but for me, I have experienced like quantum rapid, is I guess what you would call quantum jumping. And for me, I got sick. I got really bad vertigo. I got the crystals in my ear knocked loose somehow in the middle of the night sleeping, and that happened to me several times. It's three times now, actually. Um, and so every time it happens, I'm like, my frequency is too high. I'm doing too much. I need to slow down. So for me personally, I do not want to do quantum jumping or any of that quantum like leaping. I personally enjoy the journey and I enjoy the slowness. Now, I will say it wasn't always that way. And it wasn't until my last vertigo spell in November of last year, so 2 months ago, where I realized, oh my gosh, this vertigo keeps happening because this is my body telling me it's time to, I need to slow down. I'm doing too much. All of the downloads and activations are coming in, and I'm just like, the activation comes in, and I'm like, boom, doing it. And I was like, no, whoa, Nelly, Audrey, you got to settle down, slow your roll. So I started doing that a little bit more gracefully. So I don't really, I don't know for me if quantum jumping is a good thing. Because it feels my nervous system just wasn't ready. I couldn't catch up. I was activating at such a high kind of pace that I at times would have to stop with meditation because I needed to allow my nervous system get caught up into the activations and the higher consciousness that was coming through.
I love this. Thank you. You're probably the first person, like, yeah, like I love this. And I think it's really interesting to note because a lot of people don't talk about when they do hit a new frequency, the physical effects of that. And you do feel that. Some people will get sick. Well, is that if you're feeling really embodied in your soul, and you're listening to your soul mission, even though you're not calling it quantum jumping, even though you're doing it slower, you're probably still doing it faster than most other people because the guidance you're getting is the guidance you need to take. And that is one thing I say a lot to people is it's like instead of listening to what everyone else tells you to do, if you listen to what you feel aligned to do, that's where you're going to move faster anyway. So even though you don't define it as quantum jumping, you're still probably moving pretty quick. So this is super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this. So, if someone was wanting to create a soul led business, can they essentially go into their meditation and download their entire business plan, their next steps, their offers? Like, can they get the whole thing out of there?
Absolutely. That's kind of how I got mine. Now, I will say it didn't happen all in one session.
Yep.
And you wouldn't want it to, right? Because that's probably when you'd feel overwhelmed. That's probably when you start to feel like, oh my God, oh my gosh, I have so much. Now I'm in freeze. And I personally, oh, hand raised, there we go. Just raised my hand and I personally have this thing that I call the processing pause. So for me, the processing pause is when I am in this integration phase where I have all of this information that just channeled through me. And it feels, sometimes it feels overwhelming in my body. Sometimes it feels, oh my God, this is the thing. This is the thing. Oh my gosh, this is good. Ooh, goosebumps again. Even now, goosebumps again. I've got goosebumps. And I just get so excited. And then I'm like, I can't move. I can't physically create this right now. And here's the thing that I used to do where I felt like I had a mission. I owed it to myself to bring this to life, create the sales page, to get the funnel up, to get the graphics, to get like everything going right now. And what I've learned through my process is when I do it so quickly like that, when I bypass the connection to it, the launch never worked. And I was like, man, I'm doing this for my soul mission. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I rushed it. And what ended up happening was the thing that I launched actually wasn't complete. The thing that I launched was not complete. So for me, it was like I had this, I learned to have this space where it's like, okay, it's not ready yet. And the thing is your offer and your soul and your connection, she will let you know when it's time. you will just feel it from the rooftops, like, oh my God, she's ready. Okay, it's go time. It's happening. It's like that GIF where it's like, it's happening, we're doing it. Right? It's so exciting. So you'll know when it's time. But yes, you can absolutely have it all downloaded and created, and I have this whole process that I teach you to connect to the soul of your business and what wants to come first and then what comes next. And I have this thing called the golden thread method that I actually use as like the framework of creating your whole soul aligned offer suite, your ascension ladder, your client journey. And so it's really fun to be able to get little pieces of it and then be like, oh, that's where that fits in. It's like little breadcrumbs. It's following the yellow brick road, is what I love to call it too, is because you don't want it to all come at once. And some people may, and that's great. For me, I couldn't handle it all at once. I needed baby steps, I needed things to come here and there. And then when it was finally ready, I was like, okay, my processing pause is done. I feel complete with letting the energies, the frequency integrate in my body, and each meditation I'd get a little bit here and a little bit there and be like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, I can add that. And then the time would come and I'd be like, okay, I don't feel like I have flight or freeze or, fight or flight or freeze. The processing pause is where you freeze. And I was like, and I don't feel like I'm creating out of urgency, because that's another thing. You definitely don't want to create anything out of urgency. And it's very just like you go at your own pace. It just feels different. When you're in the flow, when you're in the alignment and you're in the zone, it just feels different. You can feel the difference and you know with your whole heart and your whole soul, like, yep, this is what I meant to do. And then you just have those moments. Like I have those moments all the time where I say that I won the lottery of soul missions because of what I get to do every single day. And I just love it so much.
And I actually call that like you know when you do like I don't know sport or whatever and you do it for like 6 days and then you have a rest day and then the day after the rest day you can like you've just got so much more energy and you can go harder and I always call it like when you've been doing something if you can allow the rest period it's in that rest that the expansion happens which is what I think is your integration pods and if you keep going
Processing pause. Yes,
yeah, and
absolutely.
it's like when you keep going, when you've just downloaded it, you haven't had that pause for that integration or that expansion of energy. I love the way you explain it because it's so clear. And it's just so fun. Like you make it sound so fun.
It
Um,
is. It
yeah,
is fun. Like it really, for me at least, it is. It's totally fun.
I love it. I find it really fun too. I love my spirit guides.
Yeah.
And like all of that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, so if someone wanted to get started on how they can activate their soul mission, if you had three just quick tips for them, what would they be? I'm guessing the first one's going to be daily meditation.
Oh my goodness. Daily meditation. Um, Honestly, astrology.
Oh,
Ascended numerology,
interesting.
astrology for me. Um, Astrology, like ascended numerology. If you ever have your chart read in ascended numerology, holy wow. That was amazing. The word embodied in mine was 21 times, which is everything that I do before I even knew about the ascended numerology. So, yeah, meditation, numerology, or astrology readings. And then the last one I would say probably, you know what? Ooh, surrendering. I
I
always
love
say
that.
surrendering to the outcome is one of my biggest things that I love to say. And honestly, for me, the numerology, the astrology, all of that helped, but also like not having expectations and just being open and being really just allowing whatever to come. I'm here, I'm open, I'm listening. And sometimes it would happen in a day, and sometimes it'd be like, I'm still waiting as I tap my watch, my invisible watch. And then it would be like, oh, now I'm ready. Okay. So surrendering to the outcome and just not being attached to the outcome too.
I love that. Yes, I totally love that. Taking all perceived outcomes out of it and just following the soul mission and the soul joy and the feelings and the vibrations. Yeah, literally love that. So I love that surrendering was your third.
Which is funny because it goes against what every business coach has ever told me in terms of like the 3D business coaching, right? It goes completely against. You got to have a plan, you got to have a goal, you got to have, and I'm like over here just surrendering, letting it come through. And then when it comes through, I'm like, yes, this is the thing, let's go.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's where you do shift into that 5D. because the 3D is all plan, take these steps, and the 5D is like download the steps from your soul, do them and hope for the best. Like release it. Like whatever's supposed to happen, wherever you're supposed to be led, that's where you're supposed to go, because your soul knows your highest purpose and your deepest mission, and it's going to get you there. It just might get you there a different way to what you think. So I literally love that.
Yeah, it's trusting the process.
Yeah, and enjoying the journey. I love that you also said that as well. I think that's really important, is like you don't get to the end of your life and go, yes, I've made it to the day I'm going to die. You know,
Right?
you're like, did I enjoy the journey? That's what you ask yourself. Like, not, I'm so
I
glad
always
I made
say,
it.
yeah, I always say follow the fun.
Yeah.
Follow the fun. And then one of my favorite things is say the weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Just say the weird stuff.
I love that. Like, I want an example. What would be an example?
Well, for me, the weird stuff is when I'm doing readings and I'm like, okay, now I see you in a purple chandelier hat. And they're like, oh my God, that's what I was for third grade. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just gonna learn to trust and say the weird things. And that has also brought me through even in just like when I'm working with clients and I got this like nudge that I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to say this, or if they're talking and I'm like, okay, this is gonna sound weird, but this is what I see happening. They're like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. I'm like, okay, I'm glad I said the weird stuff. So saying the weird stuff generally to me is just something that spirit is just kind of popping in my head that needs to be said in that moment.
Yes, I love that. And I agree, totally agree. I love saying the weird stuff. And even just in normal life, sometimes just if spirit tells you to say something to say to someone, just say it. It might be weird, might be the lady in front of you when you're off to get a coffee or something, but if spirit directs you to say it, just say it. So I love that. Now, do you have any recommended resources that you would think that could help people on this journey, like Gaia or anything that's helped you in the past?
So I had a book that I started reading called Opening to Channel. That was a book that I started. I never actually finished it. I opened my channel before I really even understood what all of that was. I have another book that's Healing with Light, The Bridge of Light. That was another one that was kind of the one that started with the inner temple. It was the one that started me with the inner temple practice. And I would say those are probably the two books. I started reading like How to Be Psychic and all these things, and I as I was reading them, I could literally hear my guides be like, Audrey, you could teach this. You don't need this. You don't need this. And I'd be like, you're right, I don't. Um, I would say that there's a lot of resources out there, and most of the time we don't even need it. We're probably drawn to that resource because there's something in us that uh, feels a familiarity with it. And in most cases, what I like to do is be like, okay, I'm drawn to this book. Let me go ahead and just boop, open up to page whatever and read whatever line is there. And I'm like, oh, that's the thing I needed to hear from this or read from this. And I might be called to do it again. I might randomly do it from time to time. Sometimes you don't even need to read the whole book. Sometimes it's just a paragraph or a line and just let spirit guide you in terms of opening the page and boop, pointing to it and being like, okay, that's, I think, what I need to learn from this book.
I love that. I literally love that. And I also love that you talked about kind of like a little bit about the confidence piece. Because I know like I've been psychic for my whole life. And there came a phase where I was like, I don't even know if I'm being a psychic properly. Like, I don't know how this works. And I read some psychic books and the whole lot, like the whole thing, I was just reading it because I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm doing the psychic thing wrong. I don't know how to be a psychic, right? But I am psychic, but I don't think I'm doing it right. And I read these books, and same as you, like I'm reading it going, I already do all this. I already know how to do all this.
Yes.
And so sometimes you're being guided to that resource just as confirmation that you're already on the right path as well. And so I love that you're like, it might just be one or two lines on three different pages in that book is what you need to hear. So I literally love that you mentioned that. And the thing of like, you had the book, but then you're like, I don't need to read this. So I love this. So thank you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
where can people
absolutely.
find you?
You can find me, my website's audreyrose.me. So you can find me there. I'm also on Instagram at the embodied creator with, I think it's periods. I don't even know. It's the embodied creator. Just look up Audrey Rose. There's either periods or underscores in between. I don't remember right now. But yeah, you can find me there.
I love this. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will definitely link to all of your stuff in like underneath in the video and all of that sort of stuff. But this has been the best time. I've literally loved this. I feel like we could have gone on
Me
so many
too.
rabbit holes and tangents, but so I loved this. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having this beautiful podcast and allowing me to share my experience.